It's a great privilege for me to be one of the first men to be allowed to speak under the tree.
You want to talk about this amazing legacy that you have, comes with privileges and also burdens.
Always told me was not to have two personas. A public persona which pleased everybody and a private persona which was for myself. He said, do what you want to do in public.
Do you believe anyone can be a change maker in this world?
I believe that is human nature. Every living being, positively or negatively, influences. Nothing is insignificant. Nothing and no person is insignificant.
I don't want to talk to you and not mention it. There's a lot of controversy. What was Mahatma trying to do?
Especially with his experiments in celibacy. It was very controversial. The experiments were conducted in public. Let's judge him as a human, not as put him on a pedestal and then take shots at him. That is not right.
In a world that moves pretty quick and often on autopilot, our voices and our dreams get lost in the routine. That's why we need spaces to pause, connect, and be inspired. That's how Conversations Under a Tree was born. An intimate space that invites us to be real and to have the courage to follow our dreams. My name is Natalia. I'm a journalist, visual artist, passionate traveler, documentary filmmaker. I'm also deeply involved in social issues. I'm a happy wife and a proud mother of 3 amazing children. This space is my way of learning through stories, not only to be inspired by them, but to ignite that spark inside, that passion we all carry deep within, to have the courage to live truthfully, to have the freedom to embrace who we are, and the strength to follow our dreams. Welcome to Conversations Under a Tree. We're here in India, and I have this beautiful opportunity to speak with the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Tushar.
Hello.
So it's still hello.
Yes.
Tushar Gandhi, author, activist, and great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, a powerful voice for nonviolence and ethical leadership in our time. Through his work with the Mahatma Gandhi Foundation, he carries both the weight and the responsibility of a historic legacy. As he carries forward the principles of nonviolence and social responsibility in a rapidly changing world. Tushar, you are the first man that I interview for my podcast.
No, I'm privileged. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I always do conversations with women with certain experience in their lives that have had the courage to follow their dreams.
Lovely, lovely. I think women need to be heard much more. In cultures like me, we neglect women, and all over the world, it used to be that we didn't take women as seriously as we should have. And I think the time has come when we need to become more inclined towards listening to women and understanding what they are saying. Because many a times we are so patriarchal in our behavior that we almost become deaf when a woman is speaking.
Maybe it's because they realize, like very deeply inside, that women are very smart and they possibly are right in what they're saying.
Yes, I wouldn't generalize it, but
No,
yes,
of course.
it is true. And I think it is also the anxiety of the macho man.
And the change of establishment.
Yes, yes. And so I think it's a great privilege for me to be one of the first men to be allowed to speak under the tree.
I appreciate it so much. We were honored to have Tushar talk with a group yesterday, and I want to touch on some of the key points that were mentioned yesterday that I think that everyone wants to know. Something very beautiful that you said, that sometimes the legacy, the family legacy, is the only thing that is touchable and represent at some point Mahatma Gandhi as a figure, this amazing legacy that you have. And that legacy obviously comes with privileges and also burdens. So, can you touch base on or give us an example of a burden and a privilege?
You were witness to one of the privileges that comes with my legacy yesterday when we were at the Ganga Aarti.
Yes.
The Swami, he made it a special point to announce my presence in the Aarti. As an ordinary Indian, I wouldn't have deserved that kind of identification. And then you saw how people reacted to it. You know, people were come mobbing me for photographs and they were touching my feet.
Right.
None of it I deserve as an individual. It's all because of the legacy that I carry. But if you flip it the other way, it can also be a burden because I have to be on my guard not to disappoint those people who are coming with reverence in their eyes and imagining me to be something that I really am not, kind of thing. So I have to be on my guard. What has not made it an unbearable burden is the fact that I decided not to treat it as a burden, and I decided to live my life on my terms, not on people's expectations.
Wonderful.
And I said, if they are disappointed, I'll apologize to them, but I'm not going to change just to impress them, because then it would be a false. It would be like I was acting,
Exactly.
and it's very difficult to keep acting 24/7. So then it would have been a burden. Then it would have been traumatic. So I have never bothered about it, and I have disappointed a lot of people because
Well, but
they
that's
expect
life.
something. Yeah.
Everyone has disappointed someone,
Yeah.
right?
But in my case, you know, the disappointments are more personified because they feel that I was not, how could I not be that way? How could I not live up to their expectations?
Right.
So I do, at times, I do try to explain to people. Sometimes they understand it, sometimes they don't. But I don't bother. After I have made my why I am that way clear to them, whether they accept it or not is not my problem. So that has helped me a lot.
But that I imagine that you're a wise man, wiser man now, and I imagine that took you many years to come to that decision. And when would you think you realized that would be a happier life for you too? Because you're an individual in your own right. So
Yeah, I think in that my parents and more than that my grandmother helped me in that a lot. When she made me realize that I was just an ordinary human being and I did not have to please everybody all the time. And my parents also. My father also lived his life on his own terms. He did what he enjoyed the most. The only thing that they always told me was not to have two personas, a public persona which pleased everybody and a private persona which was for myself. He said, do what you want to do in public.
that's an amazing advice.
And so I have always lived. One of the incidents that was very hilarious and also very educative for me. I stood for elections in 1998, I think, 97 or 98, 98. And it was during the period, I stood for elections to the National Parliament. And the campaign period was at the time of Ramzan. One of the campaign stops every evening was when they used to have gatherings for the breaking of the fast, iftar, in Muslim localities. And so I would go there every evening as a part of the campaign. And I love food, and I love Indian Muslim food a lot because I love.
What's not to love? We all love it.
And they found out about it, that I loved the kebabs and the biryanis and all that. And they used to, in these iftar parties, they would have a feast, a lavish feast. And everybody was invited. And because it was election time, a lot of media was invited to those parties. They told me, they said, please don't eat all the meats and the poultry that are available while you are in public, because the media will, make it into an issue that Gandhi's great grandson is enjoying meat and fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not a good image we want, kind of thing. And so what they did was they would have a group of volunteers who would kind of cordon me off and ensure that while the media was there, I didn't go to the feast at all. And they would keep telling me that, you can have it inside. We have a special room for you where we'll give you everything.
And that's
You can
exactly.
enjoy. And that's exactly what I wasn't willing to do. So I said, no, in that case, for the duration of this period, I will become vegetarian. I will not pretend to be something in public and do the opposite in indoors. And I remained that way.
I think
For
that's
that period.
a fantastic advice. I wanted to ask you, who gave you the best advice and what was it?
It wasn't as if somebody sat me down and gave me a mantra to live my life by. It was what I observed mostly, what I observed, how I saw my father and my mother live their lives, how I saw my grandmother live her life. I was fortunate that I also studied in a school established by two disciples of my great grandfather who were freedom fighters themselves.
Right.
So my education, part of that was also the Gandhian legacy and philosophy that we were in practice. As in our school, once a week, every student had to take part in the cleaning of the school premises, which also meant we had to clean the toilets. And so at that time, we used to sometimes resent cleaning the toilets, having to clean the toilets. But now in my later life, I've realized that it taught me in a very subtle manner the dignity of labor, to appreciate, sometimes all these services that we take for granted, the people who provide those services become invisible. We don't acknowledge them. We believe that that's their work, they have to do it, and we don't need to appreciate their work or acknowledge their existence. But having done the work myself, I realized that one word of appreciation. It was very funny that after the cleaning thing, we used to stand outside the place we cleaned, and the principal would come to observe it. And we would stand with pride, hoping that the principal was going to utter a word of appreciation for our effort. So many a times I would be standing outside the toilet, and when the principal came, I would say, "Oh, sir, please look at this.
Oh,
I
well,
have
my
cleaned
job
it."
has been done greatly.
Yes.
And then, as you say, we don't appreciate others' work because we take it for granted. And everyone has their own problems and
Yes.
issues and things they're thinking also.
And I have realized that one smile, one pat on the back, one
Gesture.
gesture of appreciation, one well done, or one thank you, makes a hell of a lot of difference to people.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. The legacy of Mahatma Gandhi for you, what does it mean to you as a family and to you personally?
I think I haven't accepted all the ritualistic legacy of, maybe because they're too difficult for me to practice. But the most important lesson of the legacy I have is honesty and humbleness. I don't. I have. I've always been discouraged from putting on airs about myself. I have, and I don't, and that has helped me in taking praise in my stride as well as criticism in my stride. I've not allowed any of those things to matter to me. I have been able to live a kind of an unaffected life because of that. That is very important when you have this kind of a something that could easily become an unbearable burden
Right.
to cope with it. Persistence is also one of the lessons that I learned from my ancestors, my great grandparents, my grandparents, because they also lived in adverse situations.
Exactly.
And they kept, there was an incident with my grandfather. Since you are a media person, you will appreciate it.
In South Africa.
In South Africa, my great grandfather started a periodical called Indian Opinion, a weekly. And my grandfather was sent to run it, publish it, and manage it. And he did it all his life.
Did that help him to
Yes.
get the word out?
Yes, it helped to get the word out, but it was a very difficult proposition financially. He found it very difficult to manage and run it. So he wrote to his father and said, Father, would you permit me to accept advertisements in this periodical to help run the publication? And he said, I have a family, I have a responsibility to my children also. So would you allow me to? And Bapu wrote back and said, I would rather you shut it down.
Really?
Because he said, once you start accepting advertisements, the editorial will become secondary, and the advertisers will soon start influencing your editorial, and then it will be corrupted. So I don't want you to do that. If you can't run it on its own, without advertisement, close it down. And my grandfather, till the end of his life, continued publishing that periodical with all the hardships. And my grandmother, for 5 years after my grandfather passed away, she too continued to run it. She only closed it down because my father came to India and decided to settle here. So she didn't have anybody to help her run it. So that was persistence that I have actually experienced.
And that's it's very hard because media runs on advertisement,
Yes,
and that's how it historically
absolutely,
has
absolutely.
done. But the way he did it, then, it's to preserve its nature.
Yes,
It's to preserve his message.
yes. And to keep it uninfluenced from commercial necessities.
Exactly. And about your great grandmother, I always thought, because I did mention that maybe many people also didn't know that Mahatma Gandhi, actually, was a father, was a husband, and had 4 children. But you have this iconic idea of this peacemaker, a change maker, almost saint, and you never associate it with family. So I was pretty impressed yesterday because you mentioned about your great grandmother, which was the wife of Mahatma, and you wrote a book about her.
The diary of Kasturba. We discovered this diary, which was forgotten, and nobody even knew that it was her diary or she had written a diary. And so I was privileged to be able to find it and read it and then decide to write a book. So I translated her diary and gave the context to people so that they would understand what had influenced her to make that entry in the diary at that time.
Was it strong for you? But imagine there's a strong feeling also at some point in
The first time I started reading that book, I remember I was reading it on my laptop. I was in an office of the institution where I'm a director. And the institution, people from that institution had discovered the diary. So when they gave it to me, I initially dismissed it because we all felt that she couldn't read or write. And so initially I dismissed it, saying that it couldn't be her. They said, read it. And so when I started reading it, I read it three times, one after the other, without a break, kind of thing. And there were tears streaming down my eyes because I realized that she could communicate, she could write, and we had never bothered to find out. It was funny when I wrote to my father and said, I found this diary, it's Kasturba's diary, and I'm going to decipher and translate it. He said, Ba couldn't write. And he had lived with her.
And
He
she
said,
did
she
write.
can't write. And she did write. And I sent a few pages to my father, and he was absolutely surprised and shocked that to find that diary. And most of the people, their first response was, oh, she couldn't do it, she couldn't write it. Some historians decided to challenge me when my book was coming out. They were going to accuse me that this diary was fabricated. And they said, we're going to hold a press conference. So they said, we're going to challenge you as a fraud. And I said, please do that. I will gladly answer all your questions and accusations. And I will justify why I believe it is Baz. And then they read the book, and everybody who was skeptical changed. It was a kind of atoning for the sin that even we, her descendants, had committed against her. And it was a discovery of a woman who was very astute, very knowledgeable, and very aware of the situation she was in. I'll give you a small anecdote of her influence and how much respect my great grandfather had for her. It was during the last decade of their life. They were staying in an ashram. I told you that one day maybe we could do a conversation under the tree that was Bapu's favorite.
Yeah.
So they were living in that ashram, and Bapu had become a public figure, revered and things. So 2nd October, which is his birthday, some village workers, women, requested him to allow them to come and spend the day of 2nd October in his ashram to celebrate his birthday. And he wrote back, and these were very poor village women. So he wrote back and said, I'm a poor man. I can't afford to treat guests and things. So you're welcome to come to my ashram, but you carry your own food. Don't depend on us for food. In the ashram, it used to be a community kitchen and everybody dined together. So at lunchtime, but Ba, there was an exception made for Ba. Ba used to cook her own food and eat in her pantry in her cottage. So when everybody went for lunch, Ba saw this group of women sitting under a tree opening up their food package. So she called my father, who was staying with them at that time, and asked him why these women were not eating with the ashram people. And my father told her that Bapu has told them that he can't afford to feed them and they have to bring their own food. And Ba was furious because the Hindu culture, guests are considered to be gods coming to your home. And so not feeding them is a sin. And my father, Ba told my father, she said, my husband is gone crazy. And how dare he behave in such a manner? So she said, go and tell the women to come to my house. I will feed them. And she quickly made something, and she had some sweets and things in her house.
And invited them.
So invited them and fed them. Now this was told to Bapu by the ashramites. They said, "Oh, Kasturba has defied your orders and things," and everybody thought that now Bapu would punish Ba or criticize her or something. But Bapu smiled. The King and Queen of England listened to me. But that's one place that my order doesn't mean anything. And if she has decided something, then I'm certain that she did it out of her conviction and what she felt was right.
So
And she has the right to do that. And he respected the fact. And there were multiple stories like that.
So what is the name of your book about your great grandma?
The book is called The Lost Diary of Kastur.
What is her name?
Kastur is her name, and I've named my daughter after her. So my daughter is also Kasturi.
That's so beautiful.
Yes.
What would you say? Do you believe anyone can be a change maker in this world?
I believe that that is human nature. I believe that everybody, of course, the influence that they exert is depends on how what they are influencing. But I believe every living being, positively or negatively, influences, and it is the influence that finally brings about the change. So I have learned to. I've realized that nothing is insignificant. Nothing and no person is insignificant. Actually, no life form is insignificant. Every life form in their very being tell us about what is good and what is bad. It's whether we can perceive that. Many a times we see it, but we don't acknowledge it, and then it goes waste. Not on the person who is the example, but the person who failed to understand that. And when everybody talks about enlightenment and meditation and all that, I believe the real purpose of meditation and enlightenment is opening the eye within us so that we become sensitive to identify what is good and what is bad and who is providing that lesson or that experience to us. And so I have come to a stage in my life where I feel that we have to be alert if we want to keep learning. And life is the greatest teacher. So we have to be alert to every time that life teaches us a lesson. We have to be alert to acknowledging that there's a lesson for me in this. And I have it has
That's the
enriched me.
simple enlightenment in everyday life.
I think it is the simple things that are the most profound.
And I love what you just said that nothing, not like even giving the value of small things, nothing is insignificant.
I will end it with another story. It's about my great grandfather. There was an earthquake in one of the states on the eastern side of India, Bihar. And Bapu went on an observation visit to bring relief to the affected. And he was gathering funds for the relief work and all that. And one day, and he used to walk through the entire area from village to village. One day, a beggar kept following his group of people and kept trying to get close to Bapu and wanting to speak to him and things. And people around Bapu would shoo him off, saying, "Hey, don't disturb Bapu," kind of thing, because he was a beggar. Right. Finally, Bapu noticed this, and he said, "This man has been trying to meet me, and I think he has something to tell me. Why have you not allowed him to come to me?" So he gestured and called him and said, "Come, let's talk. What do you want to tell me?" And the beggar came up to him and said, "You are collecting funds for relief." Bapu said, "Yes." So he said, "I have something to give you." And everybody was very annoyed, and they said, "What can a beggar give? Get away." The beggar picked up a coin in his bowl, which was equivalent of a quarter in dollar terms, a quarter of a rupee. And he gave it to Bapu. He said, "Today, after all my begging, I have only managed to earn this much, and I would have eaten my next meal from the part of this. But because you're doing good work, I want to give it to you, and I will starve today. It doesn't matter." And Bapu embraced that beggar and said, "This is the most precious gift that I have received." And everybody said, there are people who give you 100,000 rupees and more on your call. What are you praising this man for? And Bapu said that he has given me everything.
Everything he has.
He has. He has given me something which he knows will make him go to sleep hungry. And if he doesn't earn tomorrow, he'll be hungry. He'll remain hungry tomorrow too. And so it is more precious to me than the 100,000 or a million rupees that the millionaires give me often, because they don't even feel the effect of what they have given. But this man has jeopardized his existence. So that is more. And that is a lesson in not treating anything to be insignificant.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I don't want to talk to you and not mention it.
Sure.
There's a lot of controversy.
Of course. Of course.
So, what do you what do you make of that? What was Mahatma trying to do?
Especially with his experiments in celibacy,
Exactly.
is very controversial. And judging from today's standards, it is very controversial.
Exactly.
And when in the Western concept, when you say we slept together, it means we had sex together. Now, David and me, we broke the ice when David, after the sound therapy,
The sound
told
healing,
me,
we were
yes.
all lying down.
And he said, we slept together just now, kind of thing, which was a metaphor. We were lying together next to each other. And so it could be called that. But if it was to be mentioned in the Western context, everybody would say, oh my God, what were they doing in a public place? Were they having sex, kind of thing? Because sleeping together is that. When he did the brahmacharya experiments, one of the things that happened, and I'm not trying to justify it, because I'm just saying what I know. Yes.
Great grandfather, but what was he trying to demonstrate?
There were two aspects to it. One was he was challenging himself to see whether his all his talk about celibacy was genuine, or would he succumb to temptation. That was one aspect of it. The other aspect was that most of the women who participated in the experiment asked to be put to the test by Bapu. Because one of the conditions to come and live with him in his ashram was, while you were in the ashram, you had to be celibate. Even if you were married, you were supposed to not practice the conjugal part of the marriage, kind of thing. And so many a times, young women who would have the biological urges, and young men too, who would have the biological urges, would be attracted to one another, and then they would be traumatized, feeling that they were betraying Bapu.
But how can you synthesize this to make an understanding of this experiment? Was he trying to prove to be a saint? Is that it?
No,
Is
I
it,
think
is it a higher connection?
no, I think he was challenging himself. He was trying to prove to himself that he was true to what he wanted to believe in and what he had practiced. He, it was the final experiments of celibacy, which are more publicized
Or
controversial, were done in a period when he felt that what he believed his people to be was false. He had believed that his people were inherently nonviolent, and it had been proved but they were not. And so he was traumatized. And as I told you, that he used to always try to find flaws in himself for things. And that was the time he thought that maybe my celibacy is not pure, my celibacy is not honest, and that is what is manifesting in the society. And so he decided that he was going to test it out. The girl with whom he did those experiments, his grandniece, also wanted herself to be put to the test, because as a teenage, she was about 15 or so at that time. She came to Bapu to allow him to include her in the entourage to the troubled areas. And Bapu said, look, there is a possibility that you might be abducted. There's a possibility that you might be raped. Will you be able to live with that? And she claimed that she had no desires, she had no thing. So even if the act of rape was committed, she would be aloof from it,
mentally.
mentally aloof from it. which was very difficult to believe from a girl who didn't even know what sex was.
Right.
And so Bapu said, "How are you sure?" And she said, "Put me to the test," kind of thing. Now, the thing is that the experiments were conducted in public. He actually used to have his secretary sitting in, and he would narrate his emotions to him and make him write it down. And every day he started publishing reports of what had happened the previous night between him and Manu in his publication Harijan. All the other leaders of the Congress and the editor of that paper objected to it. He said, "You want to do something? Go ahead and do it. We won't say anything. But why do you want to publicize it like this? Why do you want to make it so public? There's no reason to do that." And just like that story where, during my election, I said, if I can't eat meats in public, yeah, exactly. I will not accept it. Bapu said the same thing. He said, if I am doing something, everybody should know about it. Otherwise, I will not do it. And he stopped those experiments. He said, if you guys insist on keeping it private, it is not a private matter. This is a public uh, penance that I'm doing. Yeah. In today's context, I would say that it was questionable because, but the experiments were between two consenting individuals. It was not as if he picked a girl and said, "Okay, come sleep with me." And sleeping with me also was not physical, it was just sharing the bed. Actually, nothing really happened. Yes, nothing happened ever. And so it was, and also, we must understand the concept of nudity. If I was in traditional Indian culture, even somebody wearing shorts would be considered to be half naked because you were supposed to cover your knees and possibly your entire feet. The only part of your anatomy which was public was your face, except in Islam. So, and Bapu always wore a loincloth, not the outer loincloth, but inner wear kind of thing. And in the tradition of that time, I would feel that they would be still wearing those clothes, which would be covering their vitals, their privates. So we have to understand and still be considered naked. But when you say naked in the Western concept, it's completely naked. So the likelihood was that he was wearing a loincloth and the girl was wearing a shift or something. Uh, not naked. Not naked stark as naked. Yes, as we consider in the Western world. Yes, but what psychological effect it had on the girl is something that can be questioned. And see, the thing is, that is where I keep saying that let's judge him as a human, not as put him on a pedestal and then take shots at him. That is not right. Leave him to be a human and allow him the ability to make mistakes. Criticize him for the mistakes. But at one time, what happens with the critics is they'll put him right up there on the pedestal as the saint and holy man. And then they take shots at him and say, "Oh, no, he didn't do this right. He didn't do this right." First of all, did you know the Brownies? Did you get to know the Brownies? Yeah, she was alive in my lifetime. I've met her also. And she then had a family. Did she have? She wrote a book. No, she didn't. She was always, she remained a spinster throughout her life. But she wrote a book titled Gandhi, My Mother. Gandhi, My Mother. Yeah. She said, and there were various women who have said that in Bapu, in his touch, we didn't feel as if we were touched by a man. We were as comfortable with uh, members of our gender with him. We could be as free as we wanted with him. We never felt that there was a man in our presence, kind of thing. And yet, the same man in his initial life always was critical of his lusts, even his normal human feelings as a man, his sexual desires, he considered them to be lust. And he said, I'm always trying to conquer my lust, kind of thing. So it wasn't as if he couldn't have sex and he said, okay, then I'll make a virtue out of it. He could, and he decided to give it up. And he succeeded it to such an extent that the manliness that we consider, if I was suddenly to reach out to you and touch you, you would either appreciate it or not, but you would say, no, this is a man touching me.
Yeah.
And women said this. We didn't feel, even when he hugged and embraced us, we didn't feel as if it was a man doing it.
Because if you think about it, he was an enlightened being.
Yes.
He was above
I think
certain.
what it was that what we consider normal, he overcame all those natural instincts.
Yeah.
And that is where either we admire him or we criticize him, because we become uncomfortable with what he had achieved.
But he achieved so much more than that. So
Yes.
it's a pity that sometimes it is those things
But-
trying to make a point actually from his part were obviously put a spotlight on.
But I also appreciate his critics, because they encouraged a study into his life to find out the truth of it. And I think that is also a very essential thing to happen. So I always encourage criticism.
That's very open from your
And there is a difference between criticism and abuse. Criticism is constructive. Abuse is a power of destruction.
Very well put. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time. It's been a great conversation. Do you have
yes.
any final words?
Thank you very much for making me the first man to be on a chat which has always been with women. Thank you.
Woman.
Thank you.